What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to my vlog. And I figured with, being up here in PA, it's been a little over a week now since I made the trip up here. I thought maybe I could talk about some of the differences between Pennsylvania and Texas, or at least where I typically am within those two states. Um, First off, let's talk about the one that everybody would talk about first: weather. Let's see here. It's wetter here in PA. There's generally more rain. And as a result, probably a little bit, it winds up being slightly cooler up here in PA. Like, there's been maybe one day lately where the highs have been anywhere in the 80s. Meanwhile, that would be every day probably down in Texas right now, if not highs in the 90s. But at least it's a little less humid down there in Texas. In the winter, there's actual snow up here in Pennsylvania pretty much every year, at least a little bit. Down in Texas, I have yet to see any more than like a millimeter of snow in a day. Other differences, the ground. there's a lot more green around here in PA. Not so much in Texas. I mean, okay, the grass sometimes gets a little bit green for like a couple of days after it rains, but not for very long, it seems like. Meanwhile, it's more rare to have the grass be brown up here in Pennsylvania. The ground in Texas pretty much has two states of existence: either really dry and brown or muddy, because the rain and the moisture is so inconsistent. The ground is more clay-ish than it is soil, and so when the rain comes, it just kind of washes off that top layer of everything and has hardly anything to actually soak into. But then up here in PA, you get more consistent rain and moisture and that kind of stuff falling to the ground, and so it actually sinks into the ground a little more, and then you have grass that grows greener. It also grows quicker, so people have to cut their grass a little more often. But anyway, other differences, gas prices, or maybe just a lot of prices in general, but especially gas prices. It's like, for the most part, like 40 to 50 cents a gallon difference between where I am in PA and where I usually am in Texas. And some of it probably has a lot to do with the roads, because I think, if I'm remembering correctly from what I've heard, and I'm understanding it right, there's a tax on gas in Pennsylvania that may not be there in Texas. And part of the money that's earned from that gas tax goes into the Department of Transportation or whatever to help fix up the roads. Because trust me, Pennsylvania needs a lot of road fixing. Texas has some road construction here and there, but there's a much larger percentage of it that's just like expanding on highways and not merely filling potholes and, redoing roads because they've got so many cracks and bumps and spots that'll pop your tires. I don't know. There are a lot of roads in Texas that are still pretty smooth compared to PA, but they still kind of keep doing work on that. So I don't know. But yeah, I really don't understand in some cases how Texas gets away with having so few taxes on things. Like, their sales tax is maybe just a little bit more than up here in Pennsylvania. They don't tax gas as much, if at all. They don't tax your income. Yeah, Texas has no state income tax. Like, what? But yeah, so there's a lot of differences. Just even the perspectives on things are so vastly different. The political perspectives can be quite different. It's up here where I am in PA, and especially as you get closer to the cities, it's a lot more liberal. It's a lot more honestly leaning towards Democratic, because that just seems to be the way things shake down right now. It's like the Democratic Party are the more liberal ones and the Republicans are more conservative. You get in Texas and it's like, oh my gosh, so stereo, like, okay, there are some of the Texas stereotypes that are a little bit overblown, but then you see these moments in certain people and you're just like, okay, yeah, I can see the stereotype. Whereas, PA, first of all, is a little harder to stereotype and pigeonhole, because you've got Eastern PA being different than Western PA, being different than what's in between those. So yeah, it's just totally different environments across the board. The church scene is also different. From what I've seen, Pennsylvania seems to have a relatively balanced church representation, at least between number of churches that you'll see from particular denominations. But then you get down to Texas and there's so many more Baptist churches than there are other kinds. Like, I feel like about half of the churches in Texas are Baptist. But then again, it is the Bible Belt down there in Texas. I'm air quoting Bible Belt just because, sure, there might be more churches that are big. There might be more of Baptist churches in particular that are big, or even just more of them in general. But I wouldn't necessarily say the South is any more Christian than the North, if I'm completely honest. A lot more people will claim to be Christians in the South than they will in the North. Like, I feel like the South is still kind of stuck in that mode where if you say you don't have any particular kind of religion, it's just sort of assumed that you're Christian, I guess. Because, America's a Christian nation, so obviously we're Christians, even though we don't go to church and we don't really do much of what the Bible says. But no, we're Christians because we believe in God and we believe that Jesus existed. I guess if I had to make a main point out of all this, I would just say that even if we're in the same country, heck, sometimes even if we're in the same state here in the US, we come from very different perspectives and upbringings and viewpoints. Like, just the way that people are raised, even in different sections of the same state sometimes, never mind in different states in the US, leads us to vastly different ways of thinking about things. So all this tension there is in the media between, who's reporting fake news, or, whether this liberal news media source is better than this conservative news media source, or, basically figuring out what is truth in all of this can become a little bit difficult when what you're hearing from other people doesn't agree with what you're used to, and you feel like that's wrong just because it's not what you're used to. So I guess the big point is, just because you're hearing something that's not what you're used to doesn't mean that it's wrong. And just because it doesn't agree with what you think is right, that doesn't make it wrong. Again, there are such vastly different life situations and perspectives on things that it's a little hard to understand where the other person is coming from unless you've seen that difference that there can be just from changing your geography and living in a different place. I've seen it firsthand, and because you see a particular side of an issue, that doesn't mean the other person you're talking to is wrong because they don't agree with you, because guess what? They have an entirely different situation, an entirely different perspective and viewpoint and experience with whatever it is that you're talking about. So I hate to keep going back to the please stop arguing kind of thing, but that's kind of what I'm getting at here. on Facebook, Twitter, all the social media, on the internet, in the news media, and everything. It's become this giant barking, yelling session of who can yell the loudest to make themselves feel like they're right. So, yeah, I guess that's all I've got this time around. So, as always, like and share if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel to see more stuff as I post it. If you want it directly on your homepage, I've been saying click the bell button on the videos, I've been saying click the bell button and click the thing that says to get you notifications or whatever, and then you'll get more stuff directly on your YouTube homepage. And I guess that kind of helps on a per video basis, but if you really want to get specifically my stuff, try going to my channel first, then clicking the bell button next to the subscription thing there, and clicking the notification box, and then it'll be a little more likely that you'll get my stuff specifically on your YouTube homepage, rather than, oh, you clicked to get notifications on one of my videos about politics, so then it gives you more stuff about politics. So, yeah. Going to my channel will probably give you more of my stuff specifically. And then there's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram to keep up with me on there. I'll be honest, Instagram is a little awkward with trying to get YouTube video related stuff up there. I've tried posting links on it, but like it just gives the URL and not an actual link when I put the URL in there, so it's like you have to copy and paste it, which is all kinds of awkward on your phone, which is where most people use Instagram anyway. So I don't know. Instagram's kind of a mixed bag of things. But anyway, Facebook and Twitter tend to work pretty well for sharing YouTube videos. You can follow me there at Matt Conroy YT. Tack a 1990 onto that if you're looking for me on Instagram as well. And that's gonna do it. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. But in any case, stay cool, people.